Madagascar, a wondrous land full of mythical secrets, strange cultures, and exotic nature. Its shadowy, damp, virgin forests are filled with eerie sounds. The cry of the lemurs lures us into an enchanted world. It's no surprise that the native inhabitants developed an unusually spiritual relationship with nature, affected by animal legends, myths, taboos, and ancestor worship.
Madagascar.
150 million years ago, Madagascar parted company with the rest of the world. This is why on Madagascar, so much is so different. In the northeast, where virgin forest and the ocean meet, there are rare animals with very special abilities. And who knows for sure whether the legends surrounding the chameleon have any truth to them? It's certainly a curious enough creature. No one here would ever point directly at a chameleon. According to traditional taboo, the outstretched finger would rot. So chameleons and the trees they inhabit are respected accordingly. Augustin and Felix are guides in the Masawala National Park. They're experts not only in the myths and legends of the forest, but also the natural relationships and lifestyles of the indigenous animals, like the white-collared brown lemur. In local mythology, trees with ferns like these are special, as they're said to be the last resting place of babies. Taboos like this often provide better protection for nature than scientific explanations. Ancestor worship and belief in animal spirits is all-pervasive. There aren't any associated with the hermit crab, though. Their presence merely indicates that the sea is not far away. The national park in the Masawala Peninsula is the largest nature reserve in northeast Madagascar. Here, the forest meets the sea at close quarters. The forest might seem endlessly huge, but in fact it is being encroached upon from every quarter. Settlements and illegal felling, these are the main threats, making the preservation of this natural treasure even more urgent. The provincial capital of Andringitra is the main contact point for nature conservation and springboard for expeditions into the Masawala National Park. It's also the headquarters of the Angap Nature Conservation Authority, which Augustin and the other field guides work with closely. Augustin teaches children all about nature. He often uses Angap brochures and signboards as his learning materials, as they clearly explain the importance of the protected areas. Augustin has founded a club for the children, singing songs with them about animals and nature, taking them on field trips, and planning environmental activities with them. He's in his element here, getting as many children interested in nature conservation as he can. It's especially important that the children find out more about nature in the forest. Animated tales are a good way of showing how a chameleon behaves in the wild, and Augustin is a master storyteller. Long ago, the chameleon was the fastest animal on Earth until, in its haste, it knocked over God's son and trampled on him. In his anger, God picked up the chameleon and threw it to the ground. When it came to, it looked around in a daze. Its eyes swiveled in all directions to see what had happened, and then it vowed from that moment on to walk very slowly. That's why it considers every step carefully, so it can never step on God's Son again. And to this day, the chameleon still moves hesitantly and with great care. Augustin and Felix are renowned among tourists as excellent field guides, but they often work together with scientists too. For 3 years they've been counting tomato frogs around the pond in Felix's garden. The exercise is part of a long-term research project to help researchers discover when and why tomato frogs come here. The appearance of many frogs is a sign of a healthy habitat. While Felix is still looking for tomato frogs in his garden and taking meticulous notes, Augustin is teaching the children his latest song. It's about Sahongongongo, the tomato frog, and it goes like this. The red frog wants to live, but we humans won't let him. Oh mama, mama, let the tomato frog live. This catchy song is not only fun, Augustin hopes it will also help make an emotional connection to environmental protection. The next morning, Augustin meets Alphonse, who is responsible for environmental education at Angap. Today, they're off to the nature conservation area on the Masawala Peninsula. It can only be reached by boat as they have to cross Andringitra Bay to get there. The bay is in danger of overfishing by commercial fisheries. If nothing is done, local fishermen will not be able to live off their catches for much longer. Only the whales are left in peace.
The whale, they're jumping, they're bleaching.
The bay is sheltered from the rough seas, and each year the whale cows return here to give birth to their young. In August, you can often see them spouting. Around Andringitra Bay there is little suitable land for settlements. The dense forest grows right down to the edge of the beach. What few villages there are hidden by the trees. They're in a protected buffer zone right on the edge of the national park. Only footpaths lead through the forest to the houses. Boat trips are expensive and approach routes long and difficult, so any visitors from outside are a welcome change. No sooner do the conservationists arrive than the women begin to organize a traditional dance evening. Dancing and singing are deeply embedded in tradition here. They use any excuse for a communal celebration. Augustin is a well-known favorite and honored guest everywhere and joins in enthusiastically. It's an event for all the villagers. You can't be too young to dance on the board. The festivities continue until nightfall, when people and animals retire to the safety of their homes. No one goes out into the forest in the dark. In the forest, animals appear as shadowy shapes. Hardly surprising that they're the subject of so many taboos and legends. Woodland spirits are feared, believed indomitable. Even the all-powerful ancestors offer little protection against them. While some huddle together to sleep, others are just beginning to waken, like the civet, one of Madagascar's few predators. The eye also only appears at night. For scientists, it's a biological sensation and stringently protected. In local mythology, however, it is an evil spirit, a devil even, that is a harbinger of death. Masawala's rainforests lie in one of the world's highest rainfall areas. Up to 8 meters of rain falls here every year due to its particular geographical location. Steep mountains lead the water down from the rain-heavy clouds and store it in the forest. Today, Augustin and Alphonse are walking in the forest with some tree experts. They're accompanied by young men from the nearby village area who are there to learn what you have to do to be a field scout. Ecotourism will be an additional source of income here, so learning about nature conservation also makes sense for the locals. En route, the forest trekkers meet some women from a nearby village. They're transporting sand intended for use in constructing a small dam. In an effort to provide a long-lasting irrigation source for the rice paddies in the narrow valley, a dam is being built in the forest. ANGAP, the Nature Conservation Authority, supports the construction of the dam, but the work itself is done by the local villagers. Every able-bodied person lends a hand. It's arduous labor, but worthwhile. It will help ensure effective cultivation of the fields, benefiting the village and preserving the forest. When the dam is finished, water from it will flow along small channels to the fields. Elixir of life for the rice. The reward for all the hard work is evident not far from the forest. Rice paddies use every available square meter of flat ground. In contrast to many other land-intensive agricultural plants, rice is always planted in the same fields. Since the establishment of the national park, the surrounding villages have received much more attention. Sustainable methods of cultivation are especially encouraged, not only of rice, but also vanilla and coffee. A member of the orchid family, vanilla is a climbing plant and conveniently also thrives on coffee bushes. A Malagasy saying goes, "Here, money grows on money." And so it was until the prices of coffee and vanilla tumbled on the global market and the farmer's income shrank to 1/10 of what it had been before. Today, relatively little vanilla is harvested and prepared for transport to market. However, the nearby national park is attracting increasing numbers of tourists from around the world, boosting hopes for new sources of income. Alphonse has environmental education on his mind as he pays a visit to Marofototra, one of the biggest villages on the Masawala Peninsula. Like the dam, the school was constructed with the support of ANGAP. Everyone here knows that only a good education gives you opportunities for the future. Alphonse and Augustin are testing the pupils' knowledge of nature. They are all obviously keyed up, trying to do their best. But when Augustin starts to sing, their enthusiasm bubbles over and discipline is forgotten. It's an easy way for the children to learn, and they happily follow into the field for more lessons. In the forest, Augustin tells stories of butterflies and orchids, cleverly combining fun with education. After all, the children will later have to treat nature with care themselves. Meanwhile, in the village, they're preparing for a big event. Augustin is giving a concert with his band. It's a rare occurrence in this remote spot, and no matter the distance, everyone makes the effort to be there. With his songs about nature on Madagascar, Augustin joins in the tradition of many well-known singers who use their music to reach people on an emotional level, anchoring nature conservation firmly in the local repertoire. Almost all the songs are about nature, water, plants and animals. The song about the tomato frog is a must. The increasingly rare tomato frog is only one example of the delicate balance of nature. There are many other animals in the forests of Madagascar that also need effective protection. There is still plenty to do. The lemur's habitat is endangered. The lush, virgin forests with their unique animals and plants are shrinking. But they're only one aspect of Madagascar's wonderful biodiversity. A 1,000 kilometers further south, in the country's interior, the moon shines down onto a completely different landscape. Mountain guides and bearers in the Andringitra National Park sing and dance around the campfire. It helps ward off night spirits and pleases the ancestors, who are, as everywhere else in Madagascar, omnipresent. It's chilly at 2,000 meters up, and the fire under the rice pot radiates a welcome warmth. Majestic mountains and mystical cloud formations seem otherworldly, suggestive of a spirit world. The Andringitra National Park is an unusual conservation area. It's home to valuable orchids and other rare species that can only be found here. The huge plateau is a scenic treasure too, and here in the national park, this field of orchids is well protected. These rare orchids are reason enough for biologists and trekking tourists to brave the steep ascent. Napoleon is a nature guide. He's inspecting the popular trekking area. He's familiar with all the plant and animal species here, an invaluable presence for experts and tourists alike. The plateau is a gigantic reservoir. There are rivulets and clear streams everywhere. They meet and flow together until finally they tumble over the rocky edge of a cliff into the valley below. These are the sacred waterfalls of a long-departed royal couple who were relieved of the burden of their infertility here. Since then, these waterfalls have been a symbol for fertility. This is just the place for Napoleon to call on his ancestors. He requests benevolence for all enterprises, using rum as the oblation. The ceremony is known as Fumba and is taken very seriously. After all, no one wants to spoil their relationship with the ancestors. Because respect for ancestors not only guarantees solace and moral support, but in particular, protection and preferential treatment in this life. Napoleon has been around since the national park was created. Roads were built, hiking trails, and a visitors centre too. The national park exists primarily to protect its unique biodiversity, but still attracts tourists from around the world. The visitors centre is run by Angap and houses an exhibition featuring the nature and culture of the region. Mira is responsible for visitor reception and gives information about the well-marked hiking trails. She hopes that more hikers will visit, wanting to see the beauty of these mountains. A benefit all round for the locals, the tourists, and for nature itself. The forests below the plateau act like a sponge. For those living in the valley, they are vital. Forest and water need stringent protection. They are the key to the survival of everything, wildlife and nature, and above all, of people. Myriad narrow channels regulate the water supply of the widespread rice fields in the valleys and up the slopes. The area is remote, and even though it's now more accessible due to the roads and bridges built when the national park was created, the locals here live primarily off what they grow themselves. So their farmsteads lie in the middle of their fields, surrounded by nature. Papyrus grows nearby, an important raw material for the villagers. Sustainability is routine here. They must produce everything themselves, including basic commodities for daily use. The women use papyrus to weave mats, baskets, hats, and other items that sometimes find their way to the far-off markets. Nearly all the houses in Madagascar's interior are constructed according to tradition, double-story and solid, protecting against the winter cold. And they don't like sleeping on the ground floor. That's where the spirits of their ancestors live. The locals need the forests surrounding the Andringitra mountains to source their building materials, and also as a water reservoir. The forest-dwelling creatures here need protection too. The kata, for example, the only lemur found all the way up into the mountains. Their ringed tails and cute habits make them very popular. Near their forest is the little town of Ambalavao. It's famous for its traditional handicrafts. Mara picks these flowers carefully, and not only for fun. She uses them to decorate paper. This is where the well-known anti-moro paper is created lovingly by hand. The bark comes from the south of Madagascar and is hand-beaten to a fine pulp. Using plenty of water, the finely pounded fibres are spread out on large sieves. The individual leaves are separated from each other in the pulpy mass. Now come the flowers, placed individually in various patterns. And then it's all left to dry. Anti-moro paper is available around the country. It's especially popular with tourists as a souvenir, but Malagasi's give it as gifts too. For survival, though, the Malagasis need rice. It's their staple diet, and it's grown all over the country. Even in the drier plains of the southwest. Here the rice paddies lie in the deltas of big rivers which irrigate them. After rice, the zebu is their most important resource, not only for food, but also for ancestor worship rituals. The most striking feature of the landscape is the baobabs. They say that the ancestors live here, so these centuries-old trees are strictly protected. No one can resist the fascinating baobab. Countless myths and legends are connected to its huge trunk. They say that they were planted upside down by the Creator by mistake, and that their roots stretch to the heavens instead of their branches. Mystical properties are attributed to the baobab, and healing powers too, especially in connection with this lake. If an infertile woman washes in its water and then goes to a sacred baobab, she will be cured of her infertility. And seeing these statuesque pillars, who would dare to say they had no magical powers? Here in the southwest of Madagascar, Odile is out with her assistant Yvette. Odile is the director of the Angap Nature Conservation Authority in Morondava, responsible for the Kirindi-Mitea National Park and its adjoining areas. It's a huge sanctuary stretching along the coast and deep into the interior. Odile and Yvette regularly travel long distances to visit the forest and the widely scattered villages. Protecting the sensitive dry forests of the Kirindi National Park can only succeed in cooperation with the locals. In a little village at the edge of the reserve, Odile and Yvette meet the village elder. The farmers want to help protect the forest from illegal intruders. They know it must be managed sustainably so as to provide a long-term source of suitable wood for the boat builders. Rangers are stationed here to manage these projects. They live here and serve as the local contact person for the villagers. A baobab forest near the coastal town of Bellot-sur-Mer makes an ideal meeting point for Odile and Yvette with the rangers. It's a long way to come, and the meeting place and time must be carefully coordinated. From here, they go on a tour of inspection into the interior of the forest. Today, they're looking for specific trees. The dry forest is one of the most important resources for boat building, but illegal felling and fire clearance are a threat to the fragile ecosystem. This is where the very light wood needed by the fishermen for their pirogues comes from. Scivotia madagascariensis floats almost cork-like on the water's surface. But the rangers seldom find trees like this in the forest anymore. This trunk is over 3 meters in diameter, a particularly fine specimen. It would be suitable for a pirogue capable of carrying 800 kilograms with space for 10 people. To ensure that future generations of boat builders will still be able to find trees like this, cooperation from the local inhabitants is essential. Without them, this huge area would be impossible to protect. Odile's on-site inspections aren't over yet. The drive continues. On the way, they cross vast swamp areas. The sea is not far away. In the tidal border area between drying out and flooding is where the saltwater-resistant mangroves grow. Their root systems are a haven for mudskippers and fiddler crabs and a nursery for countless species of fish. The mangrove forests also provide a valuable protective barrier against the annually recurring cyclones. For local fishermen, the catch here is too small, but the mangroves are still important for them. Their survival depends on the health of future fish populations. Along the entire coast, the locals live off fishing. They go far out to sea in their pirogues and cast their nets. Madagascar's natural bounty extends to its underwater world too. The vast reef off the west coast is a fantastic submarine paradise. To protect the coral reef and its fish, they're planning to establish an underwater sanctuary here. This will also safeguard the local fishing industry against international trawlers that are progressively overfishing the waters. Trawling for prawns, their drag nets destroy entire underwater landscapes. They leave slim pickings for the local fishermen in their humble pirogues. Coast dwellers like these here in Bellot-sur-Mer are well aware of their impact. If they want to catch bigger fish, they have to go much further out to find them, yet each time bring fewer back home. They can often be out in their one-man pirogues for a whole day before they catch enough to be able to head for home. They're not starving yet, but fish is getting more and more expensive. Odile and Yvette want to find out how they can effectively protect the environment in situ. They talk to the fishermen and boat builders to get a clearer idea of the situation. Patrick is from the Vezor tribe and lives almost exclusively from fishing. His pirogue needs replacing every 2 years. The wood is getting more expensive because the trees he needs have all but disappeared from the forest. It's a great challenge for ANGAP, the Nature Conservation Authority. On the one hand, the primeval forest must be protected, but on the other, the livelihood of the coastal dwellers has to be upheld. There are few alternative sources of income to fishing. Harvesting salt is one of them. Not far from Bellot-sur-Mer, the seawater that rushes far inland at high tide is pumped into large drying beds. There it evaporates, leaving a thick salt crust. This salt is delivered to cities and villages along the coast far to the north and south. Transport to the natural harbour is not far and is often by ox wagon. Here it's loaded onto boats for further transportation. The typical local sailing boats are called boutres and are used as freighters up and down the coast. They can transport up to 40 tons at a time. The manual craft of sailing is much in demand. And tourists have started to join in for the sailing experience. The journey time depends on the wind, and if it decides not to blow, a short stretch can take days. Bellot-sur-Mer is a stronghold of boutre and sailing pirogue construction. The children build their first boats early, with evident enjoyment. The basic shape of the boutre arrived around 100 years ago from Europe and has become part of the local tradition. Hard wood is the most important raw material, and it comes from the dry forest. The planks are greased with fish blubber and bent over an open fire until they fit into the hull without material stress. It can take years to finish a boutre. Whenever the owner has enough money together, he carries on with the construction. Odile and Yvette need information from the boat builders. They're complaining about the increasing scarcity of wood. They plan to work with the boutre owners and constructors to conserve badly needed resources. Meanwhile, there's a ban on outside boat builders using the wood. Only Bellot-sur-Mer residents may use the wood from permitted areas in their dry forest. To local children, sailing is second nature. They climb the rigging from their earliest days onwards. The Angap Rangers pay a visit to the local healer, Vexé. Vexé is an authority. His word is law here. Like many other healers in Madagascar, he has a particularly spiritual connection to nature and uses the forest's natural resources for his medicine. He doesn't go into the forest anymore. He leaves that to the younger folk. Knowledge of medicinal plants is increasingly prized. Pharmaceutical companies are constantly searching for new ingredients to treat illnesses. There are many plants growing in the thorn forests of southwestern Madagascar that have not yet been registered, either biologically or medically. It's a field that is still wide open to research. The healer's knowledge is very advanced. They know exactly which leaves, flowers, bark or wood is effective and against what. In the forest itself, they fear only the spirits. There are no dangerous animals here, though the animal kingdom of Madagascar teems with bizarre and unusual creatures. And they must be protected in the virgin forest, on the mountains, or in the dry forests. In the baobab forest not far from Belo-sur-Mer, Odile and Yvette meet up with their rangers. Logistics in this vast area aren't easy. Distances are long and many villages are almost inaccessible. En route, they call their rangers to a central meeting point to discuss problems and other upcoming tasks. And of course, they celebrate afterwards, as always in Madagascar. They even have their own song, composed to a popular beat by Loris. Perhaps that is the right way to make people aware of environmental issues. A catchy rhythm combined with a nature conservation message. Much has already been done. All around the national parks in Madagascar, more and more people are committed to nature conservation. And enthusiastic Malagasi's are making sure it stays that way, including the rangers and field guides. All for Madagascar, this mystical land of fascinating nature, exotic culture, and sheer magic.